So just a couple days ago, I finally hit 1 million followers on Instagram. Whew, it took a lot of effort. Now, I'm sure you know that growing your audience on platforms like Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, these aren't just vanity metrics. There are a bunch of positives that come from growing your audience, such as getting a lot of sponsorship opportunities, revenue opportunities, building communities, and also having great opportunities to go work with larger brands on creator activations, professional client shoots. The list just kind of is endless. The sweet spot is being able to create the type of content that you enjoy while also reaching a large set of eyeballs and just growing your audience over time. As I hit this big milestone in my personal journey, I started to think about the things that really helped me and escalated the process of growing my audience. And in today's video, I just want to talk about 5 tips, 5 lessons, 5 key actionable things that I've learned that I wanted to share with you that you can go ahead and implement into any sort of content, any sort of strategy, and really help grow your audience on basically any platform. Now, lesson number 1, consistency equals growth. And I'm sure you've heard this time and time again, but showing up on a regular basis will in fact help grow your overall audience or your channel or whatever you try to grow. The way that I like to think about it is every time you post something, you're basically going up to bat. You're giving yourself an opportunity to go out and reach a new audience or reach the audience that you've already built. And every piece of content that you post is an opportunity for somebody to stumble upon your profile, your content, and find out more about you. The key for me, which happened about 4 years ago, is when I decided to really start showing up and posting on a really consistent basis. And for me, a long time, it was posting daily. And nowadays, I'm not too sure that posting daily necessarily is kind of a requirement for optimal growth. The algorithm is always changing. But the real key here is you just gotta show up and you just gotta share your work on a super consistent basis. Whether that's posting every day, whether that's posting 5 times a week, 3 times a week, just figuring out ways to share more of your content, more of your work as a professional, as a creator, whatever you're doing. Sharing your work with the world is honestly, it's the number one key essential way to grow your audience, just because you're getting more opportunities to show your stuff to a larger set of eyeballs. As you're posting your content and you think about your strategy, basically what you want to think about is you want to give your audience a reason to click the follow, or in YouTube sense, the subscribe button. You want to give somebody a reason to want to join your journey. Every single piece of content that you create is an opportunity for someone to join your journey. And you don't necessarily have to think about this every time you post something, but just having this in the back of your mind in your overall content strategy of every time that you share something, how is this going to provide value for somebody? Why is somebody going to want to join my journey by seeing this piece of content? Whether that's educational, tutorial-based stuff really helped me, whether that's just pure entertainment, figuring out ways of increasing the ability for somebody to share something, or just providing value in any sort of way. For me, a lot of my content started really flourishing when I started to post behind the scenes content, tutorial style content, showcasing how I achieved specific creative avenues, creative techniques. By sharing that sort of content with my audience, it gave them a reason to decide, you know what, this person, he shares interesting stuff, but he also shares how he achieved this interesting stuff in a unique way. This is a good enough reason for me to want to kind of learn more and get more of this sort of content. So I'm gonna click the follow button. Lesson number 2, which goes hand in hand with number 1, is you need systems and not necessarily motivation to post. If you find yourself relying on inspiration all the time for posting, which a lot of times that happened to me, you'll 100% burnout. It's almost impossible to maintain a high sense of inner motivation, high sense of inspiration all the time to be able to post or create content on a very consistent basis. What really changed the game for me was building systems or methods, thought processes, planning out my content, and figuring out how I can optimize my shooting process, my actual time spent filming, to create multiple systems, multiple types of content that I create on a regular basis. Now, one of the systems that worked really well for me that I started implementing maybe 3 years ago is when I went out to do a creative shoot. Oftentimes, for instance, if I created an interesting reel or some sort of fashion thing, I'd make sure to try and capture some BTS content, whether that be just by myself, having a friend shoot some BTS content, setting up a tripod, or just figuring out ways to capture how I'm actually filming something. That way, when I went out to go shoot, not only did I have the piece of content that I created, whether it was like a cool transition I was trying out, or it was some sort of fashion or tech related piece, I'd also have multiple pieces of content that supplemented that after I'd posted about the BTS process, whether that was a breakdown of a specific technique that I had done in that video, or it was the sound design breakdown of that specific video, or even it was the gear that I used in that specific video. Basically, by planning out different things that I can incorporate in the BTS or the how-to series that I did on this creative content, I'm able to turn one shoot that perhaps took 2 or 3 hours, and before I might have only had like one piece of content from that shoot, I now had 4 or 5 strong pieces of content from that one shoot. And I was really able to maximize the amount of content that I was able to produce from one specific shoot. And just time-wise, this saved me so much time, and it was allowing me to be able to create more and more creative pieces and more content overall, just because I was able to create more content from one specific shoot and then share it over a few days following that shoot. Just as an example, that specific system worked really well for me. So I was able to do that. Let's say I had like a week's worth of content, 7 days worth of content. I was able to go out and shoot on Monday and have kind of like Monday through Thursday's content already created from that one shoot. And the following days, I was able to create additional supplemental content on other things, kind of like one-off pieces for, let's say like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And by doing that, I was able to get rest days. I was able to not just work like a maniac all 7 days of the week forever. You know what I mean? You'd have to figure out ways to time manage really well, but also maximize your actual filming days. Lesson number 3 is virality doesn't necessarily equal a true fan. What do I mean by this? Well, some of my best performing pieces of content on Instagram, for example, my most viewed reels are actually not as conversion friendly as you would think. Let me give you an example that illustrates this perfectly. So I have this reel that I created. It's a really basic kind of before and after reel that showcases a pretty cool dolly zoom vertical effect. And this reel went viral and it did really well in terms of views. It got over 6.8 million views. However, this reel went viral in all sense of the meaning. It had 6.8 million views, it had 50,000 likes, 11,000 shares. So you would assume that this translated to a large increase in followers. However, this reel with 6.8 million views only got or only converted directly to 1,800 followers. And if you think about I can't even do the math right now, but 1,800 followers from 6.8 million views doesn't seem like a large return for the amount of views it got. It went viral, but it didn't convert really well. One of the reasons for this is that this reel is just a very basic, short, snappy, it's like a 4 or 5 second just diagram basically of a technique. If I was a viewer and I saw this, yeah, I might like it, I might share it, but it doesn't really give me a reason to want to follow the person behind the reel, for instance. There's no real personality, there's no longer form benefit, it's not super educational, it's just kind of interesting. It's a cool reel. So it did really well in terms of virality, in terms of views. The second reel had about 1/3 of the views. It's basically a longer form tutorial. I think it's like 40 seconds-ish, and it just breaks down a creative technique in my traditional style. It goes really in depth and it showcases the shooting technique, editing technique, and just in terms of views, it only got 1/3 of the views that the previous reel did. It had 2.2 million views, but it had 141,000 likes, 77,000 saves. But most interestingly, it actually converted, according to these insights, to 18,000 follows. So 10 times the amount of the previous reel. 1/3 amount of views, basically, but 10 times the amount of follows. And this just goes to show that having a viral reel without the proper backing, just because it has more views, doesn't mean it's going to generate a stronger audience for you or grow your channel or your profile. The key point I'm trying to illustrate is that if you're just trying to create content for the sake of views, that's not necessarily going to equate to a large audience or growing your profile or your channel. If you're just hopping on trends just for the sake of it, just because you see it generates more views, or you're just creating content that you know has like high view potential, those alone won't equate to a large growth in your profile. The sweet spot is showcasing your personality, giving, again, your audience a reason, or someone who's just stumbled across your content, someone a reason to click the follow button, be engaged in your personality, be engaged in the style of storytelling or whatever you're educating or whatever entertainment value you're providing, just providing more avenues to really connect with people. That's infinitely more valuable, infinitely more appreciated, and in the end will equate to a a larger audience, more following, even if it doesn't generate as many views. Lesson number 4, don't reinvent the wheel. When I first really started to try and grow and post a lot of content almost daily, I was trying to create new forms of content every single day, and I was just burning out. Even if I had something do really well or pop off, I was like, I can't repeat that next time. There's no originality in that. But what I found for both my mental sanity and actually the actual algorithm and how you grow is if you have something that works, let's say you posted 50 times and 1 or 2 of those things really popped off. One of the best strategies is figuring out why that piece of content popped off and then just replicating it and tweaking it slightly and seeing if that produces similar results. For example, for the longest time, I was doing really extravagant, really long breakdown tutorials. And for a long time, it did really well. It took a lot of effort. And I thought by being as detailed as possible, that was the best way to showcase my personality, my thought process, and also just connect with people and show them the entire tutorial. But a few times I decided to strip down the tutorial. I just decided to basically get rid of all the text, all the audio, and just post basically the breakdown of a simple like 4 or 5 step process to create an effect. Instead of going through everything and explaining everything, I would just post really short reels of basically simplified versions of tutorials. I did this a couple times and they really performed really well. I think it was a combination of even if you didn't speak English, you could kind of understand it, and they were just really simplified ways of kind of seeing visual transitions created. So I decided to replicate that. I decided if something's working and it's not broken, don't try to fix it. Try to just implement it into future things in a similar fashion. Oftentimes I would use the same sounds, the same music. I'd use the same text, the same format. I found a really good format that worked. And every single time I used it, it worked really well. And it taught me a valuable lesson of you don't need to necessarily reinvent your systems, your strategies, your formats. Find a format that works and then just tweak it and adjust it to your different creative project, whatever you're working on. And for Instagram's sake, it'll do extremely well. Now, this isn't to say that you should do this for all of your content, but if you find a format that works for you, have no shame in just reusing similar formats. Formats and series content, I'm sure you've seen series content all over Instagram right now. It's a bit overplayed, but the idea of familiarity, series, something that when an audience comes to you, they feel reassured because, oh, I've seen this style of content before. It worked the first time. I'd love to see what's new, what's slightly tweaked, and how this is interesting this second time. That for me, I think is one of the biggest key kind of like boosters over the last 2 years, especially of going from, I think 2 years ago, I was at like 600,000 maybe to where I just hit 1 million. Like it almost doubled my overall, specifically Instagram audience. And number 5, be unapologetically yourself. I know a lot of creators, a lot of creative professionals in the industry are really worried about AI and just how there's a larger number of creators in the space and how am I ever gonna break out? How am I gonna showcase my skill set over other people, blah, blah, blah. I think the easiest way, and honestly the most sustainable way, is to just keep on showing bits and pieces of your personality in your content and just be yourself. People who come across your channel, your profile, they want to be a part of your world, the way that you think, your eye, your interests, your tastes. That's what sets you apart from anybody else, any sort of AI, any other creators, and that's your true personal skill. So incorporating bits and pieces of your personality, your habits, your humor into your pieces of content, just being yourself, showcasing your flaws, your mistakes, those are your superpower. People are going to want to join your journey because there's an element of human interaction, human emotion. They basically want to be a part of your journey. Showcasing yourself on the internet, yes, it's becoming vulnerable. It's showcasing your inner self, your inner personality to a degree. And by sharing that to the world to whatever extent you want, it really only benefit and really help and really sell yourself as a person that's just genuine and somebody you want to connect with. That's the kind of stuff that makes me relate to people that I want to follow. And I'm sure the audience also is interested in connecting with people that they find similarities with. So never be afraid to showcase your failures, your mistakes, your quirks, the things that you've learned, not just all glorifying the process of just your wins. Like social media is littered with people showcasing their wins, showcasing everything that's great, but oftentimes showing the process of showcasing your journey, getting to a certain point, whatever point that may be, is just a wonderful thing to see. And it's something that people can really get behind and really enjoy seeing. So yeah, 1 million followers on Instagram. It took me a long time. It was kind of like an overarching goal just because it's always easy to like gamify things and set lofty goals, but really achieving it is pretty surreal. This YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram, are basically just facets of my creative expression and where I like to showcase and share the things that I'm working on. So I'll just continue to do that. And I really appreciate, especially if you're on YouTube here, on my Instagram, really appreciate you just taking an interest in my journey and enjoying the things that I share. It really means a lot, and I'm just having a great time. I'm thinking about doing a Q&A in the very near future. So if you're interested in asking me any sort of questions on my career or what I've been up to or any specific technical stuff, I'm always happy to answer those. Leave them down in the comments below. Just attach something like hashtag Q&A so I know which questions are for that, and I'll pick a few and I'll try to answer as many as possible in that video coming up very soon. As always, if you want to support the channel, check out my LUTs, sound effects, PowerGrade. They'll be all linked down below in my shop. Thanks again for sticking with me through this journey, and I'll see you guys in the next one.